Now, I think the Daily Telegraph's front page tomorrow sums up the sentiment of many in the Australian community. Have a look. It says to the Prime Minister, hopefully bring it up now, blood on your hands. And this is a photograph of Reuven Morrison, who was killed, and his daughter, Shayna Gutnick. And Reuven was murdered right here on Sunday evening, and his daughter, grieving her loss, has condemned the Albanese government's lack of action. Joining me now is the editor of the Daily Telegraph, Ben English. Ben, this is a very powerful front page, and it does capture how many are feeling.
Yeah, absolutely. And it'd be one thing for opposition groups rightly to be making these sort of criticisms. This is a woman who's at ground zero. Her father has been slain, assassinated. And not only that, it's not just an emotional rant, it's actually an incredibly eloquent and articulate takedown of the woefully inadequate response to anti-Semitism by this government.
And even after the attack, you know, many of us often said if the Albanese government doesn't act, there is going to be a loss of life. Something like this will happen. It happened, but even that hasn't spurred on the Prime Minister to take action on anti-Semitism, which I find very difficult to comprehend. Instead, he's trying to distract us all with new gun laws. And as the former Treasurer Josh Frydenberg said today, this isn't a gun issue. This is an anti-Semitism issue, a radical Islam issue. Yeah,
I mean, it's the equivalent of a house being on fire and Albanese is saying, let's fix the gutter. You know, this is beside the point. Sure, refine the gun laws, but it's clear that there's a fundamental issue with anti-Semitism in this country. There needs to be a comprehensive response, which has been missing for 2 years. There needs to be short-term measures, there needs to be medium-term and long-term. This is going to take decades.
Yeah, well, it will, but he's not even starting work on it, which is the issue. Look, you've also done a lot of, your reporters, Mark Murray, Josh Hanrahan, have done a lot of big exclusive stories, digging into the background and the activities of the two gunmen. What do we know so far?
Well, we know that, the revelation we came up with yesterday was that they went to the Philippines. We now know that they weren't going there for a holiday and some sunshine. They're actually practicing and formulating the plan for the atrocity on Sunday.
Wow, that's what you're reporting in the newspaper tomorrow.
We are reporting that tomorrow, yes.
That they were planning this terror attack on their trip to the Philippines.
What I've been told is that they were practicing. They were getting ready.
Military training.
Yeah, and which, you know, it just reinforces how alarming this all is. We've also learned that Sajid Akram actually transferred the property ownership of his home to his wife 2 years ago, which indicates perhaps that there might have been, he might have been contemplating something like this a long time ago, so that in terms of the proceeds of crime laws, they couldn't go after the family home if it was in her name. Yeah.
There's also a lot being revealed about, you know, the ISIS flag that was in the vehicle, the links to the extremist hate preacher in Western Sydney. Again, we haven't seen any action from Tony Burke or the Albanese government, and no desire even to check whether there are others who've been radicalised.
There hasn't been a commensurate response to the scale of this atrocity. We need to see high visibility response by police. We need to be seeing, doors knocked down and actually proper investigations into those who are behind the hate that's being spawned. I haven't seen it. None of us have seen this. It's not visible. And it's because from the top, we're not seeing that conviction.
You know, over the past, because it's been about 48 hours now, Ben, I can't tell you the number of people I've spoken to who were here, who endured the terror attack, and many understandably don't want to go on camera, but they've poured their heart out. It feels like it's been 48 hours of tears for so many in the Jewish community, and you just don't get the sense that the Prime Minister has had any of those conversations. He doesn't have an understanding of the trauma of what went on here.
Yeah, I think on an emotional basis, you're not seeing that matching it. There seems to be a cognitive dissonance or something. Something's just not adding up in terms of that response. You don't want to see people raging or over the top, but you wanted to see a degree of anger behind this. That's what we've seen in the past. You could go back 25 years to when the first wave of terror attacks came. The response from Australian leaders was a commensurate, degree of anger about this and a determination to get to the bottom of it, root it out, and start to tackle what is an enormous problem for all of us in Australia.
Ben, you saw my interview with the New South Wales Premier. It was the most substantial interview he's done so far, a 20-minute interview. What did you make of how he plans to address the issue of radical Islam and then also the police resourcing problem that clearly took place here?
Well, he's miles in front of Albanese, but it was actually alarming to hear that there were only 2 police at that time. I would like to know whether there were attempts to get more police from Jewish leaders. As you said, there were 1,000 people here. It seems inadequate to have 2 police, particularly obviously in light of what's happened. So I think we need to know whether there were attempts to get more police here. I think what this shows is if we have to have a massive sort of presence of police at every Jewish event, it goes to the point that there's been a manifestly inadequate response to the anti-Semitism problem.
Exactly. Hatred has been allowed to breed within Western Sydney communities to get to the point where we now live our lives in fear.
And they feel like they have a social licence to be able to talk about their hatred out loud. I want to know why there hasn't been any arrests or charges, as you pointed out in the interview, for hate speech amongst the extreme Islamists.
Yeah, I mean, they all say they've got the laws, then why aren't the laws being used?
Yeah. I think that's the problem. We don't have necessarily a law problem, we have a problem of execution.
Yeah, well, because the Prime Minister said today he's got hate speech laws. You know, the Premier, when I sat down with him, said he's got these brand new laws, but we just don't see those arrests happen. And even on the Harbour Bridge, when I went to police with specific photographs of people wearing the Hamas inverted triangle or carrying a swastika on a Making David, etc., no action is taken.
No, because their approach is for harm minimisation rather than actually tackling the problem. And I think that's the thing. You can't appease evil.
No.
You have to tackle it.
Exactly. Ben English, thank you so much for joining us here.
Thanks,
and
Sharri.
we look forward to your coverage tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you very much.